Gentlemen, welcome back to the Front Row Dads podcast. This is a show for family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. I'm your host, John Vroman, and I live in Austin, Texas with my wife, Tatiana, my two boys, Tiger and Ocean. Today, episode 340 is with Hal Elrod. I'm bringing him back. This is our Front Row Dad webinar that we do once a year. This is the replay you're about to get. Now, you might have heard my episode with him 2 weeks ago on marriage, parenting, and work, a family leader's guide to success, where we talk about all the things that are really happening in our lives. And that episode, if you didn't hear, go back and check that out. But if you're here today, we're talking about the 3 lessons to help you level up your dad game in the next 90 days. Now, what you're about to hear is how we'll set things up, because this was a webinar for his audience, the Miracle Morning community. And then in about 10 minutes, I'm going to jump into the 3 lessons. And then about 45 minutes in, I'm going to tell you how you can become a member of Front Row Dads. If you just want to get the 3 lessons and that's it, you're already a member, or you're not interested in learning more about the membership, just get the 3 lessons and go. But if you are somebody who is wanting every possible resource at your fingertips to help you be the best dad, husband, and businessman that you can, I want to tell you about that at the end. We have nearly 300 men from 15 different countries who are fully committed to helping one another level up to succeed at the highest level possible. So if you're a businessman, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a high performer, if you want to succeed in all these areas of life, and there's a lot to juggle, you are in the right place. This is the community for a guy like you. So guys, real quick, if you don't know who Hal Elrod is, by the way, he's the author of The Miracle Morning, best-selling book all over the world. And if you didn't see The Miracle Morning movie, check it out at themiraclemorningmovie.com. It's great to watch with your family. It's an amazing film. And if you've known Hal for a long time, maybe it's time for a reread of the book, or an audio book with the family in the car, or maybe watch the movie with your family again if you haven't seen it in a couple years. I was just looking on Amazon, and it's got some 700 amazing ratings. The movie has done very well. The book has done exceptionally well for years and years and years. I mean, it is fun to see Front Row Dads travel to other countries and see The Miracle Morning in the bookstores. And I remember being in Russia, in Siberia, where my wife is from, walked into a bookstore. I saw The Miracle Morning, and I asked the woman, I said, does this book sell well here? She goes, I can't keep it on the shelf. I was like, oh man, that's fun. Do you want to FaceTime the author real quick? And we got Hal on the line. It was pretty fun. But guys, Hal's made a huge impact in the world, huge impact in the Front Row Dad community. He's an amazing father, and I'm excited to have him here. So the first 10 minutes will be Hal teeing it up. You can skip past that if you want, get right into the 3 lessons. And then guys, also at the end, I want to tell you again, we'll give you an invite to join the brotherhood, but you don't have to listen to that. But if you do, if you resonate with a family man with a business, not businessman with a family, then check it out. Or if you're a member, maybe send this episode to somebody who might enjoy learning about this community. We focus on 6 pillars throughout the year: parenting, marriage, emotional intelligence, wealth, business, and health. Those are the categories. But how do we succeed in business without sacrificing our family? How do we truly prioritize our family? That's why we're having these conversations. We want to be amazing for our families and for our businesses in the world. And if that all sounds good to you, let's get right into this webinar. Hal will take over teeing it up for about 10 minutes, and then I'll launch into the 3 lessons. Enjoy, guys.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, friends and members of the Miracle Morning community. This is Hal Elrod, and you are here for the Front Row Dads webinar, 3 lessons to help you level up as a dad in the next 90 days. So you're all a little early, which is awesome. Thank you for Early Bird Gets the Worm. This is the Miracle Morning crew, right? We show up early. We make it happen. If you can start by putting in the chat your name and where you are tuning in from. So love to get an idea of, it's always fun to just see where everybody is calling in from. We got Justin from Roanoke, Virginia. Welcome, Justin. Derek Newman from Salt Lake City, Utah. Good to see you, Derek. Ryan from Florida. Ian says, thanks, John and Hal. Got my daughter with me here watching. Oh, that's fantastic. Ian from Ohio, great to have you here. My daughter was just here. I kicked her out. I said, sweetheart, I'm doing a webinar. Please give dad some space. And John and I were laughing. I was giving her a bad time. Anyway, we got Dario from Brighton, UK, and Suelo from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Love that y'all are tuning in from around the world. I know we got, in UK, it's probably, evening time, I would say. I think it's a 6-hour difference, afternoon, Brazil, same time zone as us. Alan from Arkansas, welcome. Paul from Georgia. Ravi from Washington, welcome. Robert from Milwaukee. If you're just tuning in, put in your name and where you are tuning in from in the chat. We got Victor also from Brazil. Brazil is in the house. I love that. We have a huge Miracle Morning community in Brazil. For those of you who don't know, we have actually as many people in Brazil doing Miracle Morning as we do in America, which is cool, and around the world. Braden from Idaho, welcome. Jesse from, Hesperia, California. My great grandma and grandpa are from Hesperia. I used to visit there quite a bit. Welcome, Jesse from California. Phil from Kansas City. John Vroman says, welcome, guys. Good to see you. Sanjay from India. Long ways away, Sanjay. Good to have you here. All this global community from the Miracle Morning. It's one of the coolest things is that people from around the world are all sharing these common values. And in today's case, it's how can we be the best dad for our kids? Tiago from Brazil, but living in Georgia. Jason from LA, welcome. Jason from LA, Eddie from Colorado Springs. I love it. I am a mom from Berlin, Germany. My name is, I'm not sure how to say Uta. I apologize if I got it wrong. But hey, thank you for tuning in. Moms are welcome on the Front Row Dads webinar for sure. Fantastic. And Roberto from Brazil, living in Pennsylvania, and Alex from UK. All right, we are officially at the top of the hour. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat, and we'll probably get started. Give us another minute or two. I always know there's some folks that are, they look at the clock and they're scrambling. They go, oh my gosh, that webinar thing started, and they're trying to connect. So let's just take another minute or two before we officially get started. And let's pivot real quick for the chat. Type in how many kids you have, whether it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Type in how many kids you have in the chat. We got Steve with 3, Robbie with 1. Oh, it's going fast now. Ian with 1, Phil with 1, Derek with 3 grown children. Derek, I want to comment on that, by the way. We have members of the Front Row Dads community that have newborns and that have kids with their own parents, their own kids, right? That are grandparents. So we've got the entire spectrum. So a lot of dads in the community have grown kids, right? And that's a totally different dynamic than how do you deal with the issues that a toddler presents or a newborn presents or a teenager presents. And that's one thing I love about the community is that every stage that a dad is at on your journey as a father, I find that there is this brotherhood where there's guys with kids of all ages. And so that's been really helpful for me as my kids have, I started when they were really young in Front Row Dads, and now my daughter's 12, my son is 9. We got Ute from UK with 1, Brent with 2, Robert's got 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters. So perfect example there, Robert. Ronald's got 4, Alex, 3 boys, 3 girls. That is a full house, Alex. Derek says, very cool. Thanks, Hal. Diego says 1 girl. Awesome. All right, everybody, it looks like we got a lot of kids in the group represented. And that is John Vroman's, his mission, right, is to really impact the next generation by helping the dads, helping the dads. And of course, you may wonder, especially you from the UK, who's a mom, we get asked all the time, John, when are you going to have a Front Row Moms? And I can tell you he's been working on it for years, trying to find the right time, but he really realized that as a dad, his focus is being the best dad he can be and helping others to do the same. So we are going to go ahead and get started. And again, welcome today. If you look at your screen, it says 3 lessons to help you level up as a dad in the next 90 days. And I think that's one thing that as fathers, we often feel like this sense of well, I've got another 5 years or 10 years or, till my kids are 18, if you've got young kids, right? And then if your kids are older, you wonder, did I miss the boat? And so what's great about today is it's going to be actionable strategies that you can immediately implement to see results in the next 90 days, if not sooner. And that's just the beginning that will lead you into a path of really evolving as a father so that we can be the dads that our kids deserve. And that for me is one of my affirmations is I'm committed every day to grow and evolve as a dad, to be the father that my kids deserve. So we're going to go to the next slide. So before I bring John on, John's going to really lead today's webinar. But before I bring John on, I want to tell you a little bit about our history. So over the last 20 years, John and I have become really best friends. He's one of my closest friends. And the story of how we met, it's funny. He later told me, it took a few years for him to tell me, but he said, yeah, I didn't really like you when I first met you. We met at work. He was a little bit more, John's very thoughtful, very intentional. I'm like, blah, right? And he said, you talked really fast and you were really loud and, it kind of threw him off. And John's about to learn for the first time. I didn't like you either, buddy. Different reasons, but
that's so great.
But here's the deal. Like, he was in my wedding. In fact, this might sound weird. Tatiana, his wife, John and his wife, they came on my honeymoon with my wife and I, because they had just gotten married and they hadn't done a honeymoon yet. And my wife and I were talking. We go, why don't we invite John and Tatiana on our honeymoon? That would be fun. And my wife was pregnant with our daughter, Sophia. And John's wife, Tatiana, was pregnant with their son, Tiger. And kind of cool. Little did we know, I lived in California. They lived in New Jersey. Now we both live in Austin, Texas. And my daughter, Sophia, and their son, Tiger, they were just in a play together and they are best friends. So we never could have predicted when we were on the beach in Cabo with, the babies in the belly, that we would now be living in the same city, raising our kids together. Now, the Front Row Dads community, I was there when John had the idea. And I literally can remember where I was driving in my car. I was on the phone with John. He said, Hal, hey, I've had a breakthrough around fatherhood and around what I want to do with my life, like my professional life. So what is that? And he said, I want to align the two. And I've always thought when someone asked me what I do, he'd say, I'm an author. I'm a motivational speaker. I run a charity. He founded the Front Row Foundation. He said, but it occurred to me that what I really am is a dad. I'm a dad, more important than anything. And I remember he said, and never forgot this. He said, my kids aren't going to remember how many books I sold, how many speeches I gave, how much money I made. They're going to remember how much I invested in them, how much time I spent with them. And it was a real game changer for me because I identified as an author and as a speaker. And I thought, he's right. I'm a dad first. There's nothing more important on this earth that I can do than to really be the best dad that I can be for my kids. And so John had the idea. He goes, I want to create a business that allows me to focus all of my energy on being the best dad I can be for my kids and helping other dads do the same. And that's where Front Row Dads was born. And since then, I can tell you that it's helped me be not just a better dad, but it's helped me be a better husband. And I can tell you that at the retreats and as part of the community, we focus almost as much time, maybe not as much time, but there's a lot of time invested in how, if you are married or you have a significant other, how can you be the best for your partner? How can you navigate the challenges of being in a relationship with another person or being married, and with the dynamic and the challenges that come with raising kids with that other person? So that's been a big part that's helped me be a better husband and be a better father. There's a quote from Jim Rohn. It's one of my favorite quotes. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I can tell you that before Front Row Dads, I wasn't spending time with intentional fathers who were focused on being the best dads they could be and succeeding at business. All we would talk about was business. We'd get on the phone and I'd get off the phone with a friend. And my wife would go, hey, how are the kids? I'm like, I don't know. How's their wife? I'm like, I don't know. They go, what'd you talk about for an hour? I go, we talked about work and sports and you know what I mean? And now John and I are lucky if we even get to talk about work. Like, we're really talking about how are things going with the kids? How is it going with Tatiana? Right. And we're supporting each other. And then the business, we focus on that, right? In the context of family being first. And last but not least, I invited John here today. And this is our 3rd or 4th year in a row of doing an annual Father's Day webinar for the community, for my community, the Miracle Morning community, to help as many dads as we can to focus on being family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And I feel like that is the priority. And so many of us say family's number one. But then when you look at how we spend our time, if you look at the books that we read or the seminars that we attend, they're all about growing the business, making money, getting more customers, right? And Front Row Dads has helped me to keep my family as the number one priority. And John Vroman is responsible for the impact that Front Row Dads has made in my life. John, I love you. And I want to turn it over to you, buddy.
Thanks, Hal. Hey, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but literally last night, my son Tiger walks out in the kitchen and he's holding this. I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but this is what's called the Champions Creed, something that Hal wrote years and years ago. And when my son Tiger was at his house, can you see that? Hal, can you see what I'm holding up? Cool. Hal gave this to Tiger. And Tiger's had this in his room ever since. I think this is probably last year you gave this to Tiger.
Yeah.
And he walked out last night and he was holding it up. And I thought, oh, that's timely, buddy. You don't even know how timely that is. So thank you, Hal, for the influence that you've had in my family. And also, I should say, guys, and this is a great idea. You walk away with an immediate idea here. For my son's 13th birthday, I asked 13 men to write letters to my son. And true story, Hal was the first letter to come back to Tiger. And so in a couple of weeks, I'll present that to Tiger for his 13th birthday. So Hal has been a great, as my kids call him, Uncle Hal. He's been an amazing influence on their lives. And I love you, buddy. And I want to thank you. So guys, with that, let's get into what we promised today, which is we're going to talk about some statistics here to begin, but ultimately I'm going to get to 3 lessons that are going to help you. And they're immediate actions that in the next 40 minutes, you could walk away and implement a number of these to make a difference to your families. And again, whether you're a dad, you're a mom, or you know a dad or a mom, these principles and ideas can help everybody. I'm also going to ask that you try to remain as present as possible today. I know you got a lot going on, but try to turn off, distractions, minimize those interruptions that you might have in your life. Turn on your camera if you can and just engage, because if you're here fully present, this will make a big difference. If you're in for that, by the way, if you're in for setting your intentions to be fully present for the next 40 minutes, I invite you just to put the word in the chat box. So I know who's here. If you're in, just throw the word in into the chat box, a commitment to yourself and to the rest of the group that's here. All right. So a couple of things to think about. 70% of parents say they struggle to communicate meaningfully with their kids. 82% of parents feel like their kids avoid talking to them if they don't have to. 78% of parents feel like the lack of communication is the biggest reason they're shut out of their child's life. And 36% of parents pointed to being busy as the main thing stopping them from talking to their kids. And 41% of parents said work was the biggest drain on their time. Now, these may or may not be true for you because, listen, we have all different types of people that will show up to today's webinar, right? There are people here who are in different seasons of life. Some of you have brand new children. Your kids are under 1. You're just new to this and you're trying to be ahead of the game. I honor you for that. Some of you, like my friend Preston, has 4 children under the age of 4. I'll say that again. He has 4 children under the age of 4. You can imagine what his life looks like. Some parents are dealing with children that are in their teenage years, which is a whole new challenge. And some have grown kids. We have men in our group that have children that are all adults and that are still part of this community because they believe that their best work is yet to be done. Some people are in a season of their life where they're just getting their business started and they're pouring a lot of energy. And some people feel like they have residual passive income and they have figured out the money game, but now they're figuring out other elements like, hey, I've avoided my family for a long time to get to the point where I have a lot of money in the bank per se. Everybody's here with a different story, and I want to honor you for whatever season you are in life, you're in the right place. Let's talk a little bit about that. I believe that you need to level up as a dad. My personal invitation here, you need to level up because you can spend more time with your kids while you have time left. You could be more connected with your kids and build a stronger relationship. So they'll come to you when it matters. And again, my dad is 77. I'm 47 as of yesterday. And I will tell you that I crave a great relationship with my dad. We still work on this. And in fact, my dad joined Front Row Dads a couple months ago because he sent me a message and said, I want to be a better dad and grandfather. And I feel like Front Row Dads is a place that I can do that. Now, the business is 6 years old. And I love that he just joined. And that says a lot about where we are and where we're going. We can pass along our family values and set your kids up for success as adults. But most importantly, you can just be a bigger part of their lives. Something fun that I wanted to share is that you think about people that inspire you. I just had a man on my podcast. His name is Rich Christensen. And I found out he has 5 children who are all adults. And each of them built a multi-million-dollar business by the time they were 18. All 5 of his boys. And when you listen to and you learn his story, you realize that it wasn't just luck. A lot of what he did as a dad was very intentional. There's something he did when they were 8. There's something he did when they were 10. There's something he did when they were 12. Those are the types of things that we're busy exploring within Front Row Dads. So what is a front row dad? Let's start with that. A front row dad is somebody that is engaged and present with their family. They've got their priorities straight and they're focused on their family. And they're selfless enough to shine the light and put their spouse and kids, quote unquote, on stage. You know, throughout my 20s and even into my 30s, a lot of the attention and energy of my life was about how I could get in the game. People would say, don't be on the sidelines, get in the game. We condition ourselves to work hard. And I want my kids to learn how to work hard. The problem is that value, that positive value of working hard became an addiction for me. And I know for many others, and it actually took me away from my family because I was so busy showing my kids how to work hard that I wasn't there for them emotionally. My dad has apologized to me many times. That's, by the way, my father right there. And that's my mom. And this is where they were sitting in the front row of a speech that I was giving at East Stroudsburg State University in Pennsylvania, which is actually where my parents met. And then years and years later, I was giving the orientation speech at the school where they met, fell in love, and then they were able to sit in the front row and watch their son deliver this message. Can only imagine that as a dad sitting there watching your kids on stage it would light you up. It would light me up. And I think that's what dads do. That's what moms do. They try to put their kids on stage and make them important. I spent a lot of my earlier years making myself important and trying to be important in the world. And now I want to do the same for my kids. If your calendar is a reflection of your values, and what does your calendar currently say about your priorities? And for me, my calendar was not reflecting that family came first. It was like, how do I build an epic business? And then, oh, by the way, how do I fit my family in around all that? It was, how do I go kick butt at work? And then how do I have the energy for my family when it's all over? And this is a calendar, by the way, that doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to study the calendar. But what you can see is that here, and there's some orange places blocked off for family time. And you'll see at the bottom there, Julie time. This is an actual calendar from one of our members, Matt Drinkon, who's been a wonderful contributor to the Front Row Dad group. And this is what his calendar looks like. And he was talking about how his calendar has changed. Oh, Hal, I didn't even notice this before, but look at in the morning time, he actually wrote Miracle Morning.
Nice. I like it.
Perfect. That's like what a gift. I didn't even see that until now. But there you go. That's Matt's calendar. And if you look at your calendar, what do you see? If your story is anything like mine, I was inspired to start Front Row Dads when my wife said to me one time, "You're more of a moment maker for everyone else than you are for your family." And this was at a time when I had just published a best-selling book called The Front Row Factor, Transform Your Life with the Art of Moment Making. I'd started a charity. We had raised millions of dollars, and I felt like I was doing great work that my family was going to be proud of. The truth was that was mostly for me to feel like I was doing good in the world, and I needed to be more of a moment maker for my family. As a business owner, I was investing in myself constantly. Want to be a coach? I paid for great coaching. Want to write a best-selling book? Find the people that are doing that. Do what Hal does. I was seeking mentors that would help me level up, but I wasn't doing that for myself as a dad. And when I went to go look for resources, I couldn't find them. I mean, if you go to Google and you type in the word dad space, you will see this: dad jokes, dad gifts, dad jokes 2022, dad bod, dad hat. Where's the dad wisdom, dad strategies, dad masterminds? Where is the cultural element that teaches us, that shows us a way to be an epic father in a world where we need it more than ever? So Front Row Dads, this is why it was created. I started the group that I needed to join. I'd imagine that many of you are here for the same reasons. So let's get into these 3 lessons and help you level up in the next 90 days. The first thing I want to talk about is being fully present at home. And before I get into that, Hal, is there anything you wanted to say here before we tackle this one big lesson?
No, just that last slide really was a reality check for me about how our society is not supporting families in thriving, right? I mean, you type in dad, well, the number one thing should be how to be a great dad, and you get dad jokes, dad bod. So yeah, man, that really hit me.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Being present fully at home. Here we go. First of all, if you've got questions, throw them in the chat box at any time, and we'll get to them throughout this time that we have together, and also leave a little space at the end. But I'm going to move quickly. And the other good news is that we're going to send you these notes. So while I strongly encourage you to take notes, in case you happen to be in a place where that's difficult, you're going to not only get a recording of this time together, but you'll also get some handouts and some checklists that'll give you what's contained in these slides. All right, what does it mean to be fully present at home? Setting clear intentions to be fully present, physically and mentally with your family. You're not distracted, reactive, or triggered, and you're totally engaged with an open mind, heart, and body. You're invested and aware of what's happening with your kids and your spouse emotionally. Now, guys, I teach this, share this, learn with and from the group, and I have for the last 6 years, and I still struggle with this almost daily. And I recognize that it's not something that you learn, fix, and you never have to address again. It is a practice, just like exercise. When you stop doing it, you stop getting the benefits of it. This is something I need to work on constantly. Why do you need to be fully present? Well, here's an example. Doug Phillips is a member of our group, and he threw out an idea to the community that would help them to be more fully present. And here's what he said. In case you are listening and can't see what's on my screen, I'm going to read to you what he wrote. Okay, if you're not watching this right now. It says, "Morning, gents. 4 years ago, we started doing a summer reading marathon as a family. The main goal was to get everyone reading more and staring at the screens less over the summer. For the last 3 years, we embraced the marathon metaphor and agreed to read 26.2 thousand pages as a family over the summer. We have 3 kids, and all this works out to a little over 5,000 pages each. Having little kids that can read picture books actually helps because they can crank through those way faster. Now we have teens, so it takes some work for everyone to hit the goal. My wife put together a post on Instagram because people ask us about it. So I wanted to share that here. Check it out for more details." So then it links to her post and where she shares a little bit more insight around it. This weekend is the kickoff for us, and we always try to finish before Labor Day, but we usually go a week or two after. The biggest wins are the nerd, quote unquote, evenings that we all 5 of us sit around on the couch in our living room reading together. It has fostered a love for reading in each of our kids, and we always pick something fun as a celebration when we finish. If anyone wants to do this with your family, I'm happy to share more. Now, somebody responds back and says, "Thanks, Doug, for the nudge. Our family agreed to start with a summer 5K book challenge. 3 of the 6 of us are 8 or under, so it should be a good starting place. 92 more days, 54 pages a day, week-long camping trip as our family reward." And then it says, "The 2 you get are working already on their part. Thanks, Doug." And there's a picture there of our friend's wife and their kids sitting on the floor reading. Right? So immediate action. Somebody hears this story, they immediately take action, and they're immediately more present with their family. And then here's a follow-up, right? So somebody starts asking questions like, "Hey, what are the rules?" Says, "There are no rules, Mike. You do you. I've gone back and read book series like I did as a kid." So he's basically saying you don't have to read original books. You can go back and reread books that you've read before. They try to keep the rules to a minimum so it keeps it simple. And then again, if you can't see this, there's a poster with all these like book spines with the titles on them that Doug drew up. And he said, "Here's our poster from last year." He said he geeked out and he measured it so that the book's width on the poster showed how many pages. 100 pages equaled 1 centimeter. You could start to see the different personalities in the group show up, because I would never make that poster, but somebody that's very visual, somebody that's into metrics, somebody that can geek out on those things can, and they do these types of things. But it's not like you have to take every idea that comes into the group and roll with it, but you kind of have a series to choose from. But imagine, like, if one guy shares this story, how many other people might start reading with their families? And think about the future impact of like those books and the impact that they would have on the family down the road. You know, how many times have you read a book and it changed your life forever? I think it's a very powerful activity. So here's how you do it. First of all, here's a couple of strategies. One, Stash your phone in the car, right? Some people put it actually in a safe when they get home or somewhere away from you so that you can be present. By the way, raise your hand or throw something in the chat box that says me. Either raise your physical hand or throw a chat box if you are somebody that your phone distracts you from your family. Raise your hand or throw me in the chat box if your phone distracts you from your family. Right? And guys, my hand is up, not just to show you to raise your hand, but because I'm constantly distracted by my phone. In fact, yesterday I was walking down a street here in Austin, Texas. I had my family out for dinner. And I was telling myself that I needed to do something on my phone that was so very important. And I was taking care of it on my phone. And my little 7-year-old who's holding my hand looks up at me and he says, "Dad," he says, "would you please put your phone away?" And I said, "Yes, buddy, of course." And I said, "Thank you for reminding me. I'm really sorry." So I'm in there with you guys. Number 2, create a transition routine to get you out of work and into family time. This was an idea brought up to the group. Hey, some of you work from home. And if you just immediately close your computer and walk downstairs and greet your family, you might be taking some of that work energy into your family life. Maybe you need to change clothes and say, hey, when dad puts on a pair of sweatpants, now I'm out of work mode and into family mode. Or when I'm wearing this particular hat, I'm in work mode. And when I'm not wearing that hat, I'm in family mode. And you explain this to your family ahead of time. Or sometimes what you might need is a chance to go to the gym or take a walk or listen to a song or meditate for 5 minutes. Whatever works for you, but a ritual or a routine that helps you transition out of one mindset and into another. Number 3 was to pause, breathe, and then respond. There's a model that we teach, and it was taught by a guy named Jim Dethmer on one of our one of our online summit events. He called it the drift and shift model, where he was saying, and you'll see there in point number 4, that we can recognize when we're not present and communicate honestly where we are. Most people drift out of alignment within 0 to 3 seconds. That means the average person can really only be totally present for 0 to 3 seconds before their mind starts to drift somewhere else. And when we learn that our mind is drifting, when we have the awareness around it, we can then consciously say, I'm going to choose to shift back into presence. But just like meditation, where they say, how do I stay focused? Well, the art of meditation is actually knowing that you're going to drift away. Your mind starts thinking of all these things, and then you come back into focus. That's why meditation is often called the art of 1,000 returns, because you will constantly be pulled out of presence. And the more that you can be aware of that, you can choose to then come back into that moment. So let me pause there real quick. And also want to mention again that these are going to be sent to you as a printable checklist so you can go back and look at them later. But let's just take some questions real quick on being present at home. And Hal, let me come to you first and say, is there anything that you wanted to mention, say, or insert here?
Yeah, I'll just say, I know obviously this is largely the Miracle Morning community that is on the webinar. And you guys already have a tool, a practice in the Miracle Morning that can really help you in your pursuit of being the best dad, your evolution of being the best dad. And specifically for me, there's 2 things. It's affirmations, right? I have affirmations that remind me what's important as a father, what I'm committed to as a father. I have specifics for my family and then for the kids, each of them, what my wife needs, etc. So that's a practice you're doing daily. And that's where you can articulate in writing what you're committed to and then affirm it every day. And then the second piece is my meditation. I'll use my meditation each day to get in a state of whatever my family needs. So I'll get in a state of romance and love for my wife. I'll get in a state of playfulness or confidence with my kids, whatever I need. So just reminding you that practice you do each day in your Miracle Morning, be sure that if your family is your top priority, you can integrate that into your morning practice. And then last but not least, real quick, for me, reading a book on parenting precedes reading any book on business, productivity, any other topic. First thing is to read a book on parenting or marriage so that I can remind myself that they are my first priority and I can keep evolving as a husband and a father.
Guys, any questions that you have on the topic of being fully present, feel free to throw them in the chat box. And also, while you're thinking about what question you might have, I want to tell you something that happens in a Front Row Dad, happens at Front Row Dad events quite often, whether it's online or in person. We culturally have something that we call bonus time. And bonus time means that if you hear something that you're like, that's why I showed up today. I needed to hear that. It was like John or Hal, they were speaking directly to me, or the story they shared from Doug or this guy or that guy. I needed to hear that story. And when it's worth your time that you've invested to be here, where you're like, that's it. I could go home and be a happy person right now. Just type in the chat box, bonus time. You could leave it at that. You could just go, I'm in bonus time to celebrate that. Or you could actually say, here's why I'm in bonus time. And so some guys just type bonus time, and then they write, the quote, the phrase, the story, bonus time, reading challenge with my family. That's it. So if you go into bonus time at all today, then please make mention of that. Derek's in bonus time. Awesome. Thanks, Derek. All right, guys, let's take some questions here. Okay. So let me just look at the chat box for a second and see what we have. Great. So Morty, I'm going to answer your question here of what practice do you teach to return to presence? Okay. So first of all, Morty, I'm going to give you a resource that I think will be really helpful. And that resource is to go listen to the podcast, totally free. It's on the Front Row Dads podcast. It's with Jim Dethmer. Dethmer. Maybe somebody on our team can type that in the chat box. Jim Dethmer. Maybe we could even link to it on the site. But I will tell you that Jim, his whole episode is how to be present with your family. So an hour-long deep dive into what are the strategies to be fully present with your family. And one of the things that it takes, aside, and I'll just say again, once you've set your intentions, I'm going to be fully present. Once you've created some routines, right? Once you have done these things that we just shared, and then you're in the business of trying to be present with your family, how do you teach the return to presence? I think what it is it's a matter of failing at it, giving yourself grace, right? And then still sticking with the practice of coming back. So the minute you notice that you're out of presence and you're not beating yourself up, you're like, there you go. You did it again, John. Like, when are you going to learn your lesson? Like, a lot of us talk to ourselves really nasty, right? That you can come back into presence and go, hey, I accept myself for being a human who's pulled in all these different directions, who's constantly bombarded with distractions. But I'm going to come back into this moment. I'm going to, and you can repair like I did with Ocean. Hey, I'm really sorry. You're right. Thank you so much for catching me without getting triggered, without getting defensive. Hey, I'm just, hey buddy, I'm just doing something really, really important, which I've said also. But I think that's what it is. It's the teaching of the return is first the acceptance of who you are, the acceptance of your humanity. You are a human who is going to get distracted, and nobody will escape that. Some people, by their biological nature, are more in tune to maybe be more focused. Some people are more ADHD, like me and like many I know. But it's a practice, and ultimately it's an acknowledgement and it's an acceptance to begin.
Hey guys, quick break here to talk about a new program that we launched a few months ago, and it's having a huge impact. It's called the Summit Series, and here's how it works. Every 60 days, we take a breather from the business and focus on improving life at home. So over 12 months, we take guys through the complete fatherhood journey, covering all 6 pillars, all of the bases to make sure that you're making progress in the areas of life that matter most. Now, we've all seen, and we've likely been this guy at times, a hard-charging business dude who spends the majority of their hours focused on growing the business while investing in the family takes a back seat. And I've heard the phrase, I've said the phrase, hey, I just got to get through the busy season. Well, for most, the busy season never ends. And we just are one of those guys who gets to the end of their life saying, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. So to ensure that that does not happen to you or anyone in our community, we created a program to keep us all on track. It's a space to get focused on how to take our families to the next level. So here's a few reasons why the impact has been so profound of the Summit Series. Number one, it's a giant pattern interrupt. While many of us have been very intentional about creating habits and routines and rituals that help us to thrive, they can also hurt us if we don't have moments where we break away, take a day, and see things from a different angle. We all know the difference of like a 5, 10, or 15-minute meeting at work where we might be able to address one thing. It's very topical, and where we can step away off-site, one-day planning session where big moves are made. And that's what this is for our families. We also know that, it's not always about new ideas. It's about true ideas. So while we're all interested in novelty, we have to be careful of that. And we have to remember that we want the principles also that have been tested over decades and centuries and, that work for not just one family, but many families. So our summits are a mix of new and true ideas that serve men. We also believe in blind spots. It's one thing to go out and listen to a podcast like, hey, you're listening to one now, or to listen to an audiobook or sit and read a book, but that's one directional. You just are getting the content plugged into your head and you're able to contemplate it, and it does serve a purpose. But there's a totally different level of learning when you're in conversation with somebody who's hearing what you're saying, challenging your thoughts, getting vulnerable with you, reflecting back, giving you specific targeted ideas. And so within our brotherhood, that is what makes this summit series very different than any other type of learning that most men are getting exposed to. And lastly, one of the big reasons that guys benefit from the summit series is you're watching how other people design and facilitate conversations. So you're getting the benefit of learning from Steve Burchard, our designer and facilitator. He's one of the top facilitators in the world. And you can bring these same principles on how to host an online gathering like this to lead your business and other groups that you care about, your church groups, your family, and whatever it might be, men's groups that you're a part of in other industries. So learning to lead in this way, guys constantly walk away and say, not only did I walk away with amazing content, but I got great ideas of how I could run my meetings, which is fantastic. So if you want the best for your family, then you should have the best training. And we're the first company to address this topic specifically for high-performing entrepreneurial businessmen. So rather than me talking about it anymore, here's what one of our attendees has to say about the Summit Series.
I just wanted to share some gratitude. This event was really one of the reasons I wanted to jump in to make connections. And there wasn't a single person that I interacted with who was not just on such a high level. Everyone was committed to being here, to being a part of this process, learning and growing and supporting each other. So I'm super grateful to everyone that I interacted with and to be a part of the brotherhood. So I'm looking forward to just taking everything to the next level with you guys. So thank you.
All right, guys, to register for the next Summit event or become a Summit Series member, which I recommend within the brotherhood, go to frontrowdads.com and click Join the Brotherhood today.
Hal, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, just a quick tip is one thing that I'll do is I'll put my hand on my chest when I'm not present, and I'll do it in front of the kids too. And I'll close my eyes and just take a deep breath to recenter myself. And sometimes my right hand's on my heart, my left hand's on my stomach. And what that does is not only does it give me a physical recentering, but when my kids watch it, they're like, oh, Dad's taking time to pause and get present, right? You can tell them that's what you're doing. So yeah, I find that that's really helpful both for me and then as an outward physical sign to my kids of what I'm actually doing.
Will had a question and he was asking a great one, which is how do you target stages to be totally present, right? It's hard to go from like maybe not present at all to totally present. And hey, that takes some time to figure it out. And the first thing I would recommend, Will, is do the steps that we're offering today and just give yourself like a week to say, hey, first, I'm just going to set my intention. So I'm going to add to my miracle morning, part of my affirmation, part of my intentions for the day to be present. And when I drift, notice it, shift back into the moment. At the end of that week, ask yourself, hey, did I notice progress there? How did that work for me? Did I see slight improvements? And then each week, especially if you're part of a community, you have some guys that you can lean on or other people in your life that you can lean on. Create some accountability with them. Hey, why don't we both see how we're doing with presence and then learn together? But once you set that intention, you'll see a lot of information starts to show up. Let's move on here, guys, because I want to move quickly. But I also want to say this isn't the end. We're going to have some time at the end for Q&A, but I want to make sure that we get to these other lessons. So lesson 2 is to identify blind spots and survive the unexpected. Again, post your questions in the chat box if you have them. What does it mean to identify a blind spot and survive the unexpected? Well, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, that's what a blind spot is. And when you know your blind spot, that's when you prepare
for the unexpected, and you'll ultimately be on top of things and more in control of what's going on in your life. I like to think that like normal, quote unquote, dads are reactive. Something happens to their kid when they're 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever. And they're like, oh my God, what do I do now that I'm in this tough spot? Whereas in having a community around you, like what we're trying to build with Front Row Dads tend to be more one step ahead because all these things are being talked about before that they're happening to their children. I wasn't even aware that was something I should be concerned about when my child turns 10, but because other people in the community have kids that are 10 and they're talking about it, now I know. And what does it take to identify a blind spot? Well, here's how it looks in real time inside our community. So we have these different threads set up, these different channels for communication. This one, as you'll see here, is for intentional parenting. So we've created a safe space for high-performing dads to talk about important things as it relates to parenting. We also created a framework for sourcing feedback and gaining insights. We have ask, give, and win as our framework. The ask is simply, I've got a question for everybody. The give is, hey, I've got a resource for everybody. And the win is, hey, sometimes I don't know who to celebrate these victories with, but this is a place where I can brag confidently, and everybody loves it when I'm able to brag a little bit because they celebrate with me. And then you'll see here with this one with Alex is he had an ask for the group. Has anyone found a great resource, book, video, article, podcast, etc., for finding ways to get your kids to eat what you want them to eat? And then he expresses his struggle, right? He's vulnerable. I find myself always making the meals for my kids that I know they're going to eat because I get frustrated when they don't eat the healthy stuff that I'm trying to make for them. Maybe I'm just a bad cook. They always end up eating a rotation of toast, grilled cheese, mac and cheese. By the way, show of hands or put in the chat box me if you want your kids to eat healthier foods, if that's a struggle in your house in any way, shape, or form. And that is for me too, by the way, especially with my son, Ocean. We struggle with this. Here's what it looks like in the community. As you lean into a community and you ask for help, here's what happens. So the post is out for help. Kevin responds back with some empathy here, right? We use a food delivery source. It's also a resource, right? He responds with some empathy and some resources to provide, to help this member out. You'll see on the second slide, another resource, Fed Up, right? Was a movie that somebody had suggested. Here's a movie that I saw. I thought you might find it helpful. The third slide here that you'll see is like, I've used a combination of modeling, education, and reverse psychology. So people start to say, this is my firsthand experience. And then some encouragement. Hey, the fact that you're asking these questions shows that you're headed in the right direction. Keep up the good work. This is just an example of like what happens in our community when people start asking for help and people start sharing. And then check out what happens next. Alex chimes back in. Thanks for all the tips on feeding the kids healthy. I'm going to try a blend of all the advice and see what works. That is it, by the way, on all this. When you go from a blind spot to action is, hey, thanks for all these ideas. I'm going to try a blend of them and see what works for me. Because guys, there is no silver bullet here. There never has been. There never will be. But there are some things that you'll notice that are patterns of problems and patterns of solutions. And that's what we're after in Front Row Dads. So here's ways that you can identify a blind spot. 1, survey your spouse. Literally, go ask them to rate you 1 to 10, 10 being the best. How are you doing? Let's say in the last 30, 60, 90 days, you choose on business, parenting, family, and personal care. Ask your spouse how you're doing. That's one of the ways to identify a blind spot. Number 2, survey your kids. Hey, just make it easy, bad to awesome. And of course, depending on where your kids are and what age they are, you adjust this to your particular context. But how fun am I? How busy am I? How easy am I to talk to? Ask your kids some questions. And then the other one is you play a game that we play at dinner all the time. It's called Happy Crappy. If you've ever been at the Vroman family dinner table, you've probably seen us play this, where Happy Crappy is just your happiest moment of the day and your crappiest moment of the day. But you just start communicating with your family and staying on top of what's happening with the best and the worst of what's going on. And you'll start to see that some blind spots will start to be revealed for you, and then you can engage and move forward. So questions. Let me start with this one real quick, because this is a question that came in, which is, how do you handle your kids going to a friend's house and using cell phones, tablets, video games, etc.?
I included this under blind spots because sometimes we feel like as a parent, we're flying blind, especially when our kids are somewhere else and they're not with us. We're like, what do I do? I'm not, I'm blind to know what's going on over there. Hal, let me go to you on this one. What would you say?
Yeah, for me, there's a book that I recommend over and over and over again. It's called Hold On to Your Kids. Hold On to Your Kids. I recommend everybody reads this. And it's really about how we are allowing our kids to be raised by their peers. And we don't realize how damaging that is. You think about it, our kids are not mature enough to essentially have good relationships for the most part. And depending on the age, but you get what I'm saying, where my daughter, her and her 12-year-old friends, most likely they don't have the ability. Like, you think about a good friend, a true friend is someone who is empathetic and who brings out the best in you. Whereas our kids are just trying to feel accepted and loved, and they're dominating each other, and their egos rise. You know what I mean? So for me, we have structure, and we've explained to our kids why. I've explained to them, my daughter's 12, my son's 9. I've relayed these lessons from Hold On to Your Kids. They're mature enough, I feel like, to get it, right? And for me, we actually have structure. And the book teaches this, how to have limitations around how much your kids can hang out. My daughter's friend moved in across the street, and she wants to hang out with her every day, all day. She's allowed to have 2 play dates with her a week, and she can walk across the street to her house. 2 play dates a week and 1 sleepover. And real quick, we lived in a neighborhood before with 4 families. It was a utopia. They all had friends that were our kids' friends. And then we realized, we're never seeing our kids. And we saw their behavior really slide as we allowed them to spend time with their friends all day long. So for me, it's being intentional about putting limitations on how much time they get on a phone with their friends, etc. And then communicating that to them, not saying because I told you so, but explaining the psychology and the consequences of why we're doing this for them. And they might gripe a little bit, but as we reinforce the message and the restrictions and the understanding of why, our kids get it now. And they get it, and they're respectful about it.
Good point, Hal. Yeah, a lot of this, guys, I think about what do we do? How do we do this? This is an engagement, not only listening to yourself, but talking to other guys. Like Hal and I talk, like, how are you handling screen time? And if it's just me in isolation, I'll do the best I can. But when you're able to talk to other people about it, when you're able to go to people you love and respect, that you feel are just having some huge wins at home with their family, that feedback, those examples, those stories, both the ones that didn't work out and the ones that are working out, that's where all the juice comes from. And that's where all the biggest progress in my life has come from. So, Christian, by the way, thank you so much for your comment, man. I lost it. You are in here, but you said that this is going really well. Oh, I'm so grateful for this call that I'm about to cry of happiness. Man, that makes me smile. That makes me feel like exactly why I want to be here doing this today. Let's move on, guys. And again, we're going to, if I missed a question, we have a team in the background that's curating some questions right now that are going in the chat box, because I'm trying to be fully present with you guys here and also pay attention to the chat box. But I want to be fully present with you here, delivering these lessons. I want to get through this in the next 5 minutes. We're going to be done here in the next 15, guaranteed for you to be on your way. So, and we've got something special for you at the end. So I hope you don't go away. But lesson 3, the fastest way to grow as a dad and as a husband. So here we go. What does it mean to grow fast and as a dad and a husband? Well, it means that you only have so many hours to live your life to make an impact and create memories. If you look at how many hours you have that you spend sleeping, how many hours you spend working, and on this chart, the average would be like 58 hours working, 56 hours sleeping, and you have 54 hours left for life, right? Everybody gets the same 168 hours a week. Sorry, hold on, I skipped past that one. Growing fast means that you level up as a dad without wasting time. Now, we're all going to make mistakes, but the difference is like wasting it because you're like, if I just would have known that, I didn't have to suffer that loss. Why do you need to grow? Well, look at this post from Ray. Ray is one of our members, and this is really powerful. He wrote, "Today I ran into the mall with my 9-year-old son, Dara, to buy a box of chocolates for a friend. As we walked in and all the way to the store and back out the parking lot, he held my hand. At the moment, I was so present to the feeling of his hand in mine. The most amazing feeling. I felt every bit of the emotions I had
about how much I love this little guy. I also soaked it up knowing that very soon he won't hold my hand anymore as he grows up, gains more independence, but also follows his friends who may suggest that that's embarrassing. I know it well from my 12-year-old daughter now, who I often embarrass. Front row dads, let's all be so present to this love and these fleeting moments that hand in hand, there is no better feeling in the world. And I had this moment the other day too, where I was riding with Tiger, who's about to turn 13, as I mentioned, in a couple of weeks. And I'm in the car and I wanted to grab his hand. I wanted to literally hold his hand while we were driving, but I didn't grab his hand because I thought that might be embarrassing for him or tough for him, or that he's kind of past that stage. Those are the types of things that I think are important to acknowledge and talk about. It's interesting. I'm looking at my screen right now and I see Les McDaniel here, who's one of our Front Row Dad members, who I was just at his house where his son was going off to college. And I watched Les emotionally talk about his son, and then all the community talk about his son. And I watched his son jump up off the couch and run over and hug Les with all this love. And I thought, man, what a great example, what a great model of how things can be when your kids are 18. So thank you for that, Les. Guys, how do you do this? Well, first you start by asking other men. Ask another dad, what's one of the coolest things that you do with your kids, or whatever question you want to ask, but talk to people. How are you succeeding? What's working? Where are you having wins? And if you're on this call and you're not a dad, you're a mom, then ask other moms. By the way, you can just ask other parents. It doesn't mean you only have to learn from men, but just asking other people. Subscribe to the Front Row Dad podcast. I mean, look, we're interviewing people there. It's a totally free resource. There's no commitment. Just go subscribe, take a listen to a couple of the episodes and see what you think. We'll send you a link, but there's some great specific podcasts that will handle some of the biggest challenges that men and parents face. By the way, 30% of our audience to that show are women, the Front Row Dads podcast. And then also block off 30 minutes starting now for some one-to-one time with your kids, a quick walk around the neighborhood, take them out for a quick bite to eat, something where you can block 30 minutes of one-to-one time with each of your kids. And if once a week doesn't work for you for whatever reason, try once a month, right? There's even a program that we talk about constantly called the Family Board Meeting, which was written by a guy named Jim Shields. And that's 4 hours per person once a quarter. There's really no magic bullet, but it is the power of one-to-one time. All right, guys, questions. Is there a question relating to growing quickly that we can answer right now before we start to wrap things up? I'll probably have time for one quick question and then I'll move on. Let me just scan the box here or take a look at my... Okay, any questions?
While you're doing that, John, I'll answer this question from Howard Miller saying he wanted strategies to get your wife to be present. And this comes up a lot, right? How do I get my wife to be blank? You can fill in the blank, whatever you want her to be. And what I found, the answer to that for me has been go first. Go first. Lead by example. If you want, Howard, how to get your wife to be more present? It's go first and then be patient, right? You lead by example and that affects another person. Maybe not day one, day two, week one, week two. But for me personally, I found that with my wife, when I decided to focus on making her life incredible in every way I could, selflessly adding value and serving her, that was the distinction I had. Stop keeping score of how her mood is reflects my mood. No. I'm committed to being this man, this husband for her, no matter how she feels, how her mood is. I'm going to be a beacon of light, right? Shining for my wife. And within a matter of days, weeks, months, gradually she reflected that light and it really transformed our relationship. So that's my advice. Go first, be patient, be consistent, and don't stop.
Great thoughts. Guys, there's some questions coming in that my team's sending to me also. What we're going to do is I'm going to wrap things up here officially with this webinar portion, and then we're going to stick around and answer those questions, and you guys can stick around for those as well. Let me first of all say that if this helped you today, which clearly, thanks to some of your comments here in the chat box, we know that it has been helpful for some of you. All right, guys, I want to thank you again for being here today. And if you feel this was helpful, if there were some ideas, some suggestions that you feel could make a difference for your family, I want to let you know that that type of experience can continue. And I want to talk about what it means to be a Front Row Dad member. Hal talked about his experience, but I want to talk about how this relates to everybody that is here today and anybody that might be watching this recording later. Our members get
high level support for fatherhood, for marriage, and for the other areas of life that matter to them, like health and wealth creation and business evolution. They get that help every single day. When they need it, we are there available for them. And from all the things that they invest in, from a car payment to a mortgage payment to a gym membership, Front Row Dads is one of the most affordable programs with the highest caliber people. We have been told time and time again that we are underpriced, that we should charge more. And maybe one day we will, but right now you can get in this community for $97 a month, which we repeatedly hear is a steal. And I believe it, and I say it proudly, that that is what we are offering right now. So let's talk about what membership looks like. This picture here on the left, as I see my screen, is the first ever Front Row Dad gathering. That was in 2016. There were 30 guys who said, look, we talk about business a lot, but we don't talk a lot about family. And I feel like that's missing. You know, for me, when my son was 6 years old, I felt like I talked about being a great dad, but where was all the conversation around that? When I looked online, I didn't find the community that I wanted. And when I wanted to grow in anything professionally in any area, I wanted to write a book. I hired the right coaches. I surrounded myself with the right people. I did that for anything that I ever wanted to learn. Wanted to learn how to play volleyball. It was, hey, where's the team? Where's the coach? Anything. Except there wasn't that available for fatherhood and for, especially for family men with businesses, rather than being a businessman who happens to have a family. And today, I will tell you that after 6 years, you know, of guys coming to us saying, oh, we should do monthly group calls to stay in touch with each other. And oh, what if we got together with small groups? And that turned into our band program. And what if we took all these recordings and put them online, John, so that, you know, people could access them as needed. And so that became our vault. And, you know, there were so many things that came up because people needed them. And so we built them and we created them. And, you know, in the past, people would say there's no manual for parenting. And now we feel like we've created the best of its kind and we're just building. And so when guys like you say yes to the brotherhood, when guys like you join and you bring your best ideas and everybody else brings their best ideas, imagine that. 300 men from 15 different countries bringing their best ideas. And also when you ask a group of men, 300 people from 15 different countries for help, somebody in that group can help you. And that's been said time and time again as well. People go, John's not going to answer all the questions because John can't have all the different life experiences. You know, I have 2 kids, but you might have 5. Or, you know, some people have blended families and some people have all girls and some people have all boys and every combination in between. But man, these guys have gotten together over the years and figured out a lot. And we want to share that with you. I get messages today. I see messages in our group threads like this one from Jeff, and you'll see it. He writes, Ken and I got the wives together tonight for dinner while they were in town. It was my wife and I's first date out since baby Aspen was born 2 months ago. And Amy was blown away by how amazing the people are in this community. Very grateful for you all. And that I've heard countless times. Somebody's spouse, you know, who reaches out to me and says, I can't thank you enough for the group that you've created because my husband has never been the same since he started with Front Row Dads. And that is just wonderful to hear. If you wonder what membership looks like, here's a little peek. Guys say yes, and there's a theme. You'll see Derek here, his comment when he joined the group, right? I joined because it's time that I put some focus on my family and not just my career. Now, that might not be true for all of you, but for some of you, it might be. You know, you see, he wrote, I want to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are experiencing the same things that I am and ultimately putting family first. Corey wrote, I'm looking forward to talking to like-minded men who want to put family first. I mean, that's what we're craving is, look, diversity is great. I want guys that have different experiences than me. And partially because when they share their experience, I might not be going through it now, but I might experience that later. And it's good to know that. It's also good to see things from a lot of different angles, but to have some common threads, some similarities that bring us together. That is what Front Row Dads is about. Chad wrote, excited to be part of a community with like-minded men who put family first. You know, here's another one from Derek. He wrote, looking forward to seeing what I can learn and what I can contribute. One of my friends, Jeff Wood, said, what makes a community great is not when everybody shows up to take something, but people show up to give something. And so another one of our Front Row Dads, Aaron, said, you know, hey, in life, when you're kicking ass, you know, you pour into other people because one day when you're getting your ass kicked, all those people that you gave to will be there to pour into you. And so when you're strong, you help. And when you're in need of help, you ask, and people are there to serve and support you. Social equity, right? You've built up social equity in a group. That's why it's important to do this now, regardless of whether things are in the best place they've ever been, or maybe the worst place they've ever been, or anywhere in between. Andrew said, I'm here to be a little better than I was yesterday when it comes to being a dad and husband. Look, this isn't a group for people who are all failing and everybody gets together and complains about what's going wrong. This is a community of guys who are doing well in a lot of areas of life. And yet they know that there's a little bit more that they could be doing, perhaps. Maybe there's a blind spot they have. Maybe they could learn a little thing that makes a big difference. And our guys are the type of guys that say, I don't want to get to the end of my life and look back and go, if I would have known that when my kid was 2, or my teenager was 14, or my 18-year-old was entering adulthood, I wish I would have known that. We don't want that. So we want to share all that wisdom now. Front row dads are ahead of the curve in that way. And Hector just wrote, I want to be around men who care about being the best dads that they can be. And that's what we have here, a group of great guys, people that are highly successful, highly intelligent, high performers, and at the same time, humble enough to know there's more to learn. You can be part of Front Row Dads today. Literally, all you have to do is go, my growth as a dad, my marriage, my family, it's worth $97 a month. Yes, I'm going to do it. And then immediately you're in, you get access to our community area, and you'll see here on the screen. And if you're not looking at the screen, what you'll see is just a screenshot of, hey, these are all the members that we have. You could find people that live in your area. We can literally sort membership by how many kids people have. There's a library with all the recordings and searchable. So if you're looking for something on marriage, we got you. We'll show you all the past recordings, and you can go in and listen at 2 times speed and be super efficient. There's a calendar of events, so you can see what's coming up. You can add that calendar to your calendar digitally, so it just blocks time for your family. And then, of course, all the different threads, the Telegram threads, the Facebook groups that you can communicate with 24/7. So if you've got a question at 2 a.m. and you want to post that, hey, there might be somebody else up at 2 a.m. who's giving you support, giving you resources, giving you ideas on how to move forward. You'll also see here that in your first week when you join, we'll enter you into the new member threads. You're not doing this alone. You're with other people who are just figuring it out with you. We're telling you all the tips and tricks on how to get involved, how to get connected, how to work with our Front Row Dads, work with our team, get answers to all the questions that you've got. And then, of course, you'll be on an orientation call where you'll meet some of these people that are maybe in your area, maybe in a different part of the US, maybe a different part of the world. And how cool is that to get this vast array of experiences and this diverse view on life? So many times I've been on a call and I'm like, didn't even know I didn't know that. Wasn't even on my radar. Never would have thought to ask that question. Never would have thought that could have been a problem. But there's so much awareness that's created. And then finally, of course, you get access to all the chats that you can start posting in immediately. You got a question right now, throw it in a chat. And within 24 hours, you've got resources at your fingertips. Also, you'll be in the Facebook group. You'll be invited to the first call. And of course, you'll see the map where all of our members are located throughout the US and throughout the world. And one last thing is that on July 6th, we have our next community call. So immediately when you get into the group, you'll get notices of, hey, here's our next call. Here's how to join. And even if you can't join, well, then you'll be able to access the recording, or you can send your questions in advance. Hey guys, I won't be there, but if somebody could answer this question, that would be great. Think about this. Of all the time that you invest into your business and all the time you invest into the different areas of your life that are important, how much time do you carve out each week or each month to focus on working on your family and not just in your family? Guys, if this is for you, then just take the action right now. frontrowdads.com/join97. Join 97 and make it happen. As Hal said earlier, you're the average of the 5 people, or in this case, dads, that you spend the most time with. You're the average of the 5 people, the 5 dads that you spend the most time with. When you look around right now, are you thrilled with the peer group that you have? Now, you might have your guys that you go out with and you laugh and you drink and you tell jokes, and that's a great group to have fun with. You might have your business mastermind where that's important and you should be doing that. You might have, people that you go to the gym and you work out with and you just talk about weights and training and all that. And that's great. All those friends are wonderful. You could have childhood friends that you're like, the bond is deep and you've known each other for a long time. But the reality is that you might have drifted apart a little bit, or you've got different life goals right now. But who in your network right now, who do you have that are 5 incredible dads that you look up to, that you can grow
along with? Well, if you look in your neighborhood, if you look to your left and your right, if you look within a half mile or a mile or even 20 miles of your home and you don't find that, that's why we created Front Row Dads, so that we open this up and we can find each other throughout the world and we can talk about the things that matter. So guys, here's the question, right? There's a lot going on, John. I got a full schedule. I'm super busy. Should I join? Right? With all my time commitments. Maybe you look at it and you go, where do I even fit this in? Right? Let me tell you, there's never going to be a perfect time to join. Members typically invest, 30 minutes a week, but some, when they're getting started, 10 minutes a week. But imagine that, in 10 minutes, could you go into a Telegram thread? Could you go into the group? Could you share something? Could you read something? Could you have a one-to-one conversation once a week with another dad from somewhere around the world that you share the best of what's going on and your biggest question, and they do the same? Imagine if you had one conversation a week. What would it look like after 52 weeks, 52 connections, 52 amazing men? Could you get one idea that was like, that covered the cost of my membership for the year and then some? Constantly we hear this, right? That the ROI in this community, it is well worth $97 a month and beyond. Don't take my word for it. Ask anybody that's a part of this community and they will let you know their own thoughts. And obviously you've got Hal here telling you what his experience is. You've heard me say it a bunch of times, but unless I wasn't clear, it's $97 a month to get started. There is a program beyond that called the Summit Series, and you can, consider that if you want to, but getting started at $97 a month, you can cancel at any time. But the mission is to provide so much value that you tell us that we're underpriced. You become one of those people that are like, you should charge more. I know I shouldn't say that, John. I'm the one paying you, but this is way underpriced. That's my goal. My goal is to over deliver in value and to create a community where you're like, this is the last thing I would cancel if I had to cut expenses. I would rather cut out alcohol. I'd rather cut out like one trip to the movies. I'd rather cut out any other way that I'm blowing $97. But to become a better dad, I want to tell my kids, I want to be able to tell my kids, hey guys, you know how you invest in going and just learning this, getting a tutor, going to violin lesson, going to soccer practice? You know how dad does that? I don't want to just tell you you're supposed to invest in places to grow. Like as a dad, I invest in becoming a better dad. How cool is that to be able to tell your kids? Am I the right guy for the group? Well, look, if you resonate with being a family man with a business, not a businessman with a family, like if you hear that and you hear like, yes, then yeah, you belong here. And the reality is, do I know that for certain? No, man, that's why you have to try it. But we have men with all kids of ages and stages. And are we the best community in the world? How would I know that? I don't know. If we're the best, I know it's amazing. And so the reality is, you probably don't have enough time to compare our community to every other community in the world. But maybe this is a sign. Maybe you're here for a reason. Maybe the invitation is being put in front of you because it's like, look, what do you have to lose? Rolling the dice with $97, giving it 30 days, seeing if this is the place where you belong. And my sense is that if you resonate with that statement, family man with a business, not a businessman with a family, that yeah, you should take the plunge, risk the $97 and go do it. But why now? All right, John, I'll do it, but I'll do it next month. I got him in a busy season. Guys, I got to tell you, you're always in a busy season. It's never going to not be a busy season. I mean, the reality is that, I've seen it time and time again. A guy will do something, not be in a busy season, and then find himself in a busy season immediately because we're good at just being busy and filling the schedule. The question is, what are you filling it with? One of the best bits of advice I ever got from Jay Papasan was put your family vacation on the calendar first. Put your family vacation on the calendar first. So guys, things are going well. That's the perfect time to jump in and help other people, like I said earlier. And if you need help, now is the right time to put ego aside and ask for some assistance here. So now, because guys, your kids are not getting any younger. Neither are you, right? And this could be the moment when you jump in and you go, I didn't even know it, didn't even see it, but this is exactly why I'm supposed to be here. Because I heard that story, because I heard that example. Because you were supposed to help somebody. Maybe all your life experience, you showed up just at the right time to help another guy and his family. And why do you want other families to succeed? Because your kids are growing up in a world with all these other dads' kids. And if their kids are happy and well-adjusted and succeeding and doing great in life, then your kids are living in that world.
And so you want other dads to do great. You want other men and their children to do great because that's a society that your children are going to be living within. This is a team effort here. And guys, when you join, what are you going to get? If that question's still on the table, here's what it is in its most simple form. You're going to get relationships, resources, and results. That's what you're going to get. First, the relationship, then the resource, then the result. If you want to go Google how to be a better dad, you'll have to sift through a ton of garbage to get to some real ideas. But the best part of all, man, is we're not meant to live in isolation. We're not supposed to do this alone. I mean, for thousands of years, we've been living in small communities and bigger communities, but we've had relationships. And when somebody really gets to know you and they listen to you and they understand you and they have empathy, then they can provide you the right resource. Hey, this is the book I think that might help. This is what happened to me. This is the guy I would recommend. Here's the resource. Here's the coach. Here's the suggestion. And then you get faster results. Together, we go further, faster. Together, we go further, faster. And honestly, guys, sometimes it's just fun. It's not a group that just has a bunch of memes and, we're not just constantly laughing at being dads. Man, sometimes a good laugh, sometimes a good dose of humor goes a long way. And with as stressful as life can be, sometimes that's the best thing. So guys, here's the quick review. You get in, you get the access to the vault right away. And if you're hearing all this and you're like, all right, John, stop talking. I got it. Then go to frontrowdads.com/join97. frontrowdads.com/join97. Do it right now. Turn this off, pause this, whatever you got to do and go make it happen. But here's the quick review. Immediate access to the member area happens instantly. You get invited to the new member chat. You get invited to an orientation call. You get access to all the chat threads about parenting, health, wealth and legacy, business, marriage, emotional intelligence, right? You ever yell at your kids? You ever raise your voice? You ever lose your temper? We got you. We'll give you a variety of ways for you to engage. Some of you are on Facebook. Some of you aren't. Doesn't matter. That's why we've got a dozen different ways for you to get value, because if you're not a Facebook guy, don't do it. But if you are, we got you there. What if I can't attend all the member calls? Don't worry about it. Make half of them, make a quarter of them. My goal is that they're also valuable, that if you attended one, you're like, that paid for my membership for the year. If you can get to 12, bonus time, baby, right? Connect locally. You'll get a map. You'll see where everybody is. And guys, I want to send you this hat. The one I'm wearing, the one that's in that picture, the one that Hal is wearing in the picture. It is our original Front Row Dads hat. I want you to wear that with pride. And I love it when members tell me that they love putting on that hat and they love telling people that they're part of this community. Somebody comes up and goes, what's that hat about? And it's cool to be able to say, oh, I'm part of a community of men who have dedicated a portion of their week to be able to talk to each other about how to level up as fathers and as husbands and how to be the best family men that we can be. A lot of guys are part of business masterminds. And while I think that's great, man, it says a lot when you're part of a mastermind that's focused on family. So if you join immediately, we'll get you this welcome box with a few other surprises in it. I'll let you be a little bit surprised, but that hat is on its way to you right away. So guys, that is it. I hope you join Front Row Dads if you feel called to do so. If you have any additional questions, email our team, info@frontrowdads.com. But go now, join. If you feel a nudge, just make it happen. I mean, what do you have to lose? If it doesn't work out, we'll send you your money back. If you get 30 days down the road, you're like, hey, not a good fit. I'll send you $97 back and I'll wish you the best on your way. But I have a feeling you're going to get involved. You'll be like, this is what I've been looking for. See you on the inside, guys.
Gentlemen, thanks for listening to the show today. 2 actions to take from here. First, implement one thing that you learned from the interview. And number 2, share this episode with somebody who values being a family man with a business. If you're enjoying the Front Row Dad podcast, the biggest thanks we ever get are honest reviews. So thank you for your feedback in advance. We read all of them. And if you want to learn more about the Brotherhood, which is our private community of 200 men from 6 different countries, visit frontrowdads.com for more info. If you're wondering what the hell the Brotherhood is all about, I'll leave you with some real feedback from guys who are active members and why they are part of our crew. Thanks again for listening to the show, and I'll catch you on the next episode.
You had this passion for wanting to find a way to make you a better parent and a better husband, just better in general. And so you developed this community of like-minded men that that aspire to be better and aspire to put family first and business second. And so to me, there's no greater place I'd rather be. People ask me all the time, like, if I could only pick one group, mastermind, organization, whatever to be part of besides my own, it's always yours. And that's it. And by the way, part of that has to do with you and the leader you are and the way that you treat people and how you show up and the level of preparation that you have and the quality and amount of value that you offer. And then part of it's in the community that's been assembled and these unbelievable like-minded men that show up willing and ready to serve and to give and to share. And so to me, there's no better place that I can be spending my time. I look at two different things that we can be doing with our time. One of them is growing relationships and starting first with the most important relationships. And the other one is growing our financial acumen and our wealth to be able to do the things that we want to do and have impact and be able to spend time with the people that we value most by buying that time back. So to me, what you do and what I do is a great marriage of what I think is most important. And I would also throw in there that health is, the other component of that. And I feel like the community that you've built, that each of us have built, is also centered around that. Because you talk about being a great husband, parent, that's going to come from taking care of yourself and making sure that you have the energy to be able to serve. And I do the same thing on a wealth standpoint, because wealth to me is not just about money. It's actually about having the time and the space to have your personal health. I would take having great health over no money any day of the week, rather than the inverse of that, having a lot of money but no health. So to me, those are like the three most important components. And to me, we're always merging those three in the things that we each do. And so I think that's why there's a lot of crossover of, members. That's why what you do resonates so much with me. What I do resonates so much with you. I joined as a lifetime member for that small little window where you offered it. I'm like, I'm in, because I know if I'm going to commit my time anywhere, this is it, because it makes me a better man, makes me a better husband, makes me a better father. It encourages me to really step up my peer group with other like-minded men so that I can be on mission, on point with other people that will hold me accountable at the highest level.
John and I met a year and a half ago with the launch of my first book. And as we were going through the interview, I began to ask him questions about the brotherhood, and it resonated within me that a community of like-minded, like-hearted men that wanted to win, as he was just saying, at business and in life. And I'd reverse that. I wanted to win as a dad, and then I'd also love to be successful in business, because I feel like if I don't get the dad right, who cares what I did in business? That's my legacy. That's what lives beyond me. So to tribe up with a bunch of dudes going in the same direction with the pillars that are in place and the way that not only are you encouraged, compelled, you're chided, you're laughed with, but you get to pace yourself, but you can get around a band of dudes that you can trust, you can share with, you can grow with. And just recently completed a time with these guys. We did this fast at the start of the new year. Every day I would tune in to the little app where we were sharing comments, and I was so impressed how you could see guys that were further down the road and things like this, guys that were just starting, and the camaraderie, the encouragement. So for myself, this was a total fit, and I would encourage any dude that's looking for a place where you can feel connected with a band of guys wanting to go in the same direction. Front Row Dads is for you.